So, last night, somewhere around midnight, right? I found myself scrolling through pictures. It was a friend of a friend's destination wedding, like halfway across the world. Now, I wasn't invited. I barely know these people. And I'm sitting there in pajamas that, well, they've definitely seen better days.
Right, the classic scene.
Yeah, and the more I watch these, perfect sunsets and slow motion confetti shots, the tighter this knot in my stomach got. Like, why wasn't I drinking champagne on a cliff in Santorini? It was just this weird mix. Curiosity, envy, and, anxiety over something I had no real claim on.
That feeling, that little pang you felt, that's the absolute classic signal of FOMO, the fear of missing out. And what you described, it just perfectly captures how absurd it feels in the modern world, doesn't it?
Totally, yeah.
We end up comparing our own reality, which is messy and mundane, but it's real, to this super idealized, filtered story somebody else is telling. And we feel genuinely, inadequate because of it.
We have a name for it now, FOMO. Coined back in the early 2000s, I think. But the feeling itself, that fear of being left out, it feels ancient, like technology didn't invent this anxiety.
No, not at all. But it's certainly put it on steroids, made it scalable, inescapable, pretty much.
Yeah.
It really has become a modern epidemic. And look, this isn't just about feeling a bit down because you missed a party.
Right.
FOMO is nudging us awake at dawn to check notifications. It's pushing us to say yes to things we don't actually want to do. And it's draining our resources.
Stealing sleep, you mentioned.
Steals sleep, chips away at mental health, often drains our wallets too. And a lot of the time, it's operating just below conscious awareness, until suddenly we hit this wall of burnout.
So understanding FOMO, really getting it, feels like a crucial survival skill now. The digital age, which is why we're doing this deep dive today. Our mission really is to unpack the whole psychology behind this fear. We want to trace its evolutionary roots, look at the brain chemistry, the dopamine, the cortisol, and really scrutinize how social media design plays into all of this.
And importantly, we want to move beyond just diagnosing the problem. We're going to explore concrete, science-backed solutions, show you how to maybe regain some control, set functional boundaries, and make that crucial shift, hopefully from FOMO to JOMO, the joy of missing out, by rooting your choices in what you actually authentically value.
Right, and hopefully without having to, chuck your phone into the nearest ocean.
Exactly. Let's try to avoid that.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with a really clear definition. What is FOMO? Beyond just the catchy phrase. We all know the phrase fear of missing out. But you're saying, and our sources really emphasize this, that psychologically it's way more complex than just, not wanting to miss something cool. So what's the formal definition? And why is it so important that there are two parts to it?
Okay, so formally, FOMO is defined as this pervasive apprehension, this feeling that others might be having rewarding experiences that you're absent from.
Okay.
It's the anxiety that something meaningful, socially or personally rewarding is happening somewhere else without you. Now, the two parts are vital because they really define the emotional trap. First, there has to be that perceived reward, the tempting image of the fun, the success, the connection, whatever it is.
Right, the shiny object.
Exactly. And second, there has to be the felt conviction of exclusion, that anxiety that you personally are absent from that rewarding thing. If you take away either one of the reward or the exclusion, the anxiety kind of dissolves.
Ah, that makes sense. And that distinction separates FOMO from just being curious or ambitious in a healthy way, right?
Precisely. Curiosity might push you to learn a new skill, right? FOMO brings this specific emotional cocktail. It's a mix of inadequacy, this sense of urgency, restlessness, and almost always there's a spike of self-doubt that comes with it.
It's that low-grade buzzing you mentioned before. Like you can't fully relax into what you're doing because your mind keeps pulling you somewhere else. Some better hypothetical place.
Yeah, exactly, that buzzing. And it gets amplified like crazy by what we could call the age of perpetual elsewhere. I mean, just think about the shift in scale.
Okay.
Our ancestors, they worried about missing the next hunt, maybe the village gathering. 10, 20 crucial social events a year, maybe.
Right. Manageable.
Manageable. We worry about missing infinite parallel paths. Broadcast 24/7, high res, the trending brunch spot, the viral crypto thing, the perfect vacation filter, 1 minute of scrolling. You could be exposed to hundreds of these curated realities.
And the signs of this constant exposure, the behavioral hallmarks, they're pretty clear when you look for them.
Oh, yeah. It shows up as compulsive device checking, often at really inappropriate times, right?
Like mid-conversation.
Exactly. It leads to chronic overcommitment because saying no feels like losing. And maybe more subtly, it shows up as just difficulty enjoying the choices you have made. Because you're always second-guessing, did I pick the wrong thing?
Yeah, or that little sting when friends post a group photo and you weren't there, even if you were busy doing something you genuinely wanted to do.
That's it. And we can actually break that feeling down into what happens in a micro moment. It's this super rapid loop that runs before your rational brain even kicks in.
Okay, walk me through it.
So a trigger appears. Let's say a colleague's big new job announcement on LinkedIn. Instantly, the brain starts to process. First, the appraisal.
Yeah.
How desirable is that compared to my current situation?
Okay, weighing it up.
Then, lightning fast comes the social judgment. Where am I relative to them? Am I falling behind?
Ouch.
Yeah. And immediately after that comes the emotion. Maybe it's envy, maybe sharp anxiety, maybe a little shame, or just disappointment. And finally, the behavioral urge. Gotta keep scrolling, gotta refresh the feed, gotta message them right now, or maybe just RSVP yes to the next random thing that pops up. That whole chain. Exposure to urge. It can take less than 10 seconds.
Wow, 10 seconds.
But the emotional residue, that can cloud your focus for hours. It's this rapid reactive loop happening dozens, maybe hundreds of times a day for some people.
And when you look at the prevalence data, I mean, it really drives home why we're calling this an epidemic.
The numbers are pretty staggering, yeah. Surveys consistently show upwards of 60% of young adults report frequent FOMO, like feeling it multiple times a week, even daily.
60%.
But the behavior, that's even more universal. Studies show smartphone users, on average, unlock their phones more than 70 times a day. 70 potential exposures to that micro-moment loop. And a huge chunk of that activity is driven simply by the fear of missing some crucial social update.
And the cost is real. I saw stats like 3/4 of college students say it messes with their studying. Half of professionals check email on vacation because of it. That anxiety overrides the basic need for rest.
It absolutely does. But to really grasp why one little red notification can cause such a big physical reaction, we need to go deeper. We need to go way back to where the human brain was first wired.
Okay, this ancient vulnerability idea is fascinating. So transport us back. Tens of thousands of years ago, Savannah. Missing a group signal wasn't just awkward, it was potentially fatal.
Potentially fatal, yes. That's the ultimate evolutionary truth here. For most of human history, belonging equaled survival.
Wow.
Our earliest ancestors lived in environments where, look, an individual alone, rarely a match for the threats out there. Survival and definitely passing on your genes hinged completely on being part of the group. Cooperation was key.
So if you fell out of favor?
If you fell out of favor, if you missed crucial info about where the food was, or you got excluded from the shelter, the cost was incredibly high. So our brains evolved not just to see the world, but to act as these highly sensitive social sense organs, exquisitely tuned, to tracking who's in, who's out, who's contributing, how the group dynamics are shifting.
Which makes the intense pain of social rejection make so much more sense. Ostracism wasn't just mean, it was like a psychological death sentence.
Precisely. Think about it. We are the descendants of the warriors, the ones who felt acute distress at the slightest hint of exclusion and immediately scrambled back into the circle. The ancestors who were totally chill about being left alone, they often didn't stick around long enough to pass on those chill genes, this deep-seated need for vigilance, for knowing what's going on. That's why gossip, anthropologically speaking, holds so much power.
You mentioned gossip as the Stone Age newsfeed.
It was essential social intel. Gossip let groups track who to trust, who might be hoarding resources, whose loyalties were shifting. It was vital for self-preservation. And today, algorithms basically industrialize that exact instinct.
How so?
Well, think about trending tabs, personalized recommendations, even things like read receipts. They all tap into the very same neural networks that once kept us scanning the horizon, desperate for crucial survival information from the group.
But here's the mismatch, right? Our brains are built for small tribes, but now we're swimming in global cities of information.
Exactly. And this is where we hit what you might call Dunbar's curse. The anthropologist Robin Dunbar, his work suggests humans can comfortably manage about, 150 stable relationships? That's the Dunbar number.
Got 150.
That's kind of the natural capacity of our built-in social tracking system. But digital life, it exposes us to thousands of connections, countless little micro-communities, infinite feeds. Our poor ancient detection system is just overwhelmed. constantly pinging the nervous system with that urgent primal question. Are you still in? Are you still part of the group? Or have you been silently kicked out?
Wow. Okay, so let's connect that overwhelmed ancient brain to the modern ping of a notification. What's actually happening neurochemically when we feel like we're missing out?
Yeah, the link is undeniable thanks to neuroscience. Functional MRI studies, fMRI, they show this really striking overlap. The brain circuits that process physical pain, like if you burn your hand, overlap significantly with those that process social pain, especially in a region called the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, or DACC.
So getting unfriended or left out of a group chat literally hurts in the brain.
On a neural level, yes. It fires up the same alarm system as if you were facing tribal exile. Your brain registers that loss of social connection as a genuine threat, basically screaming, danger, injury.
Okay, that explains the pain. But what about the compulsive checking? The addictive part, even when we know it, makes us feel bad.
That's the classic slot machine effect. And it's fueled primarily by dopamine. Now, dopamine isn't really the pleasure hormone people think it is. It's more the anticipation or the seeking hormone.
Okay.
Seeking. And the critical thing here is that dopamine surges are strongest, not when rewards are guaranteed, but when they're delivered unpredictably.
Like a slot machine payout.
Exactly like a slot machine. You open your phone, maybe you see a life-changing email, maybe just an ad for socks. This variable reward schedule maximizes what's called the reward prediction error. It conditions your brain to keep chasing that next post, that next notification, because that one could be the amazing one.
So dopamine drives the seeking, the checking.
Yeah.
But what about the urgency, that feeling of, I have to act now?
That's where cortisol comes in, the main stress hormone. When that primal threat of exclusion is sensed, even if it's just seeing friends having fun without you, on Instagram, the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, it fires up, floods the body with cortisol. This explains why FOMO feels like this chronic, low-grade anxiety, not just simple curiosity. Biologically, your body is being mobilized, is preparing to run towards the group, metaphorically speaking, to get back into safety.
It was like your client, Emma, you mentioned. The chronic buzzing she felt trying to relax with Instagram.
Perfect example. She described it as this buzzing in her chest and shoulders. Her body, lying there passively scrolling, was biologically gearing up for fight or flight. That's cortisol at work.
And when our minds aren't focused, when they wander, that's when the comparison engine really revs up, isn't it?
Precisely. We're talking about the default mode network, the DMN. It's active when your mind is kind of at rest, daydreaming, reflecting, organizing memories. In today's world, though, the DMN gets absolutely flooded with this high-contrast, curated content from our feeds. Every post, a friend's new house, a colleague's promotion, that amazing vacation becomes raw material for spontaneous, often subconscious comparison.
So you find yourself comparing your messy kitchen to someone's perfectly staged photo without even meaning to.
Exactly. And you didn't consciously decide, I shall now compare kitchens. It just happens. And this constant low-level comparison drains enormous mental energy that should really be going towards actual rest or deeper thinking.
And the brain's neuroplasticity means the more we do this check, compare, worry, the stronger those pathways get.
That's the ticker. We're literally reorganizing our brains, strengthening the circuits for rapid reward detection, for scanning, for vigilance, and weakening the ones for sustained concentration, deep focus, genuine presence. The old saying holds, neurons that fire together, wire together.
We're wiring ourselves for distraction.
That's the tragedy of it, really. We are actively evolving our brains to be hypervigilant and easily distracted. And the people designing these platforms, unfortunately, they know exactly how to exploit this evolutionary mismatch.
That's a really powerful point to transition on. We've got these ancient, vulnerable brains. Now let's look squarely at how the digital world acts as the perfect amplifier, creating what you call that perfect FOMO storm.
It is absolutely engineered for perpetual engagement. And the first thing we have to internalize, really get, is the business model.
Right, we're not the customer.
You're not the customer, you are the product. Your attention is what's being sold to advertisers. So if you feel satisfied after seeing one update, or if you close the app feeling content, that's actually bad for business.
Never thought of it quite that way.
That nagging tension, that feeling that something better, something more exciting, is lurking just beyond the next swipe. That's not accidental. That's the fuel that keeps the entire machine running.
And that profit motive, it drives specific design choices, like the infinite scroll.
Oh, the infinite scroll is a masterstroke of psychological manipulation.
Right.
Seriously. It completely removed all the natural stopping cues our brains evolved with.
How do you mean?
Well, think about foraging. You eventually run out of berries in the patch, right? Or you reach the edge of the field. There are natural limits. Infinite Scroll exploits that exploratory itch, that novelty seeking, but without ever running out of content.
So you just keep going.
You keep going. Each downward flick offers a new possibility, a potential dopamine hit, even if 99% of it is just noise. You can never truly finish the feed, which keeps that reward-seeking part of your brain perpetually active.
And then layer on the notifications, these constant little digital doorbells demanding attention.
And they are very carefully crafted cues. That little red badge on an app icon, that's not random. Red is an evolutionary signal for urgency, for danger, for importance. And the alerts themselves, highly personalized, designed specifically to tap into that fear of exclusion. You have memories waiting for you, or 10 of your friends like this post about X. It maximizes that unpredictable dopamine hit we talked about, making it almost impossible to mentally clock out completely.
But maybe the most damaging feature, psychologically speaking, the one that basically guarantees comparison, is the highlight reel effect. Feeds are just scrubbed clean of ordinary life.
The highlight reel is devastating for FOMO, really, in two main ways. First, it triggers intense upward comparison. You're not comparing your actual day-to-day life to someone else's actual day-to-day life.
No, you're comparing your behind-the-scenes mess.
Exactly. Your blooper reel to their curated, polished stage performance. So naturally, everyone else seems happier, more successful, better looking, richer. Second, and this is maybe more subtle, it exaggerates scarcity. If everyone appears to be constantly attending amazing, exclusive events or achieving incredible things, it implies that opportunities are finite, that there are fewer left for you, which just ramps up that feeling of urgency and anxiety.
That takes me right back to my Santorini scrolling.
Yeah.
I was reacting to the perfect shot, completely forgetting the likely reality of the economy flight, the jet lag, maybe a cramped Airbnb.
That gap between the curated perception and the messy reality, that's exactly where comparison thrives.
Yeah.
And that brings us right to Leon Festinger's social comparison theory, just updated for the digital age. The core idea is simple. We often lack objective internal standards for judging ourselves. How am I doing in life? So what do? We look sideways. We compare ourselves to others.
And the underlying calculation is really primal, isn't it? Where do I stand? Am I safe? Am I valued?
Totally primal. Am I keeping up with the tribe? And we talk about upward, downward, and sideways comparison. In the context of FOMO, which one usually stings the most?
My guess is sideways. Comparing to peers.
You got it. Lateral or sideways comparison usually delivers the sharpest sting. Comparing yourself upward to, say, a billionaire or a movie star, it's often too abstract to really hurt. Downward comparison can sometimes even give a little ego boost, frankly.
Right.
But when it's peers, people who started at the same place as you, maybe old college friends, former colleagues, and they suddenly seem to leap ahead, a huge promotion, the dream house, that amazing sabbatical, it feels different. It feels like an implicit contract was broken.
How so?
Their success doesn't just showcase their good fortune. It feels like it implicitly highlights your perceived shortcomings, your lack of effort, your wrong choices. It feels personal.
And this feeds right into how we signal status today. It's less about earning stuff, like Veldon talked about with conspicuous consumption.
Right, the diamond rings and fancy cars.
Yeah, and more about conspicuous experience, isn't it?
That is the critical modern shift. Status today is often signaled through experiences, especially ones that are highly shareable visually. Posing on the yacht, checking in at the exclusive retreat, documenting the extreme adventure. And because these experiences are ephemeral, they have to be constantly replaced. You did the marathon last year, what's the ultramarathon this year? It traps us in this relentless chase for the next status bump, the next shareable moment.
And the anxiety around that, the status
That
number.
chronic concern of, am I measuring up? Am I falling behind? That keeps the stress response simmering. It causes those cortisol surges we talked about. And the real irony, it actually reduces the enjoyment we get from ordinary everyday pleasures because we're always worried they're not Instagrammable enough, not high status enough.
Wow. So when status and comparison become our main scorecard, the cost isn't just psychological. It starts to bleed into our actual health, our decisions, even our finances. Okay, so we've established FOMO isn't just some mild annoyance. When it gets chronic, the psychological toll is huge. That low-grade, persistent cortisol drip we talked about, running the body like a marathon without moving, that leads to serious mental health problems.
Yeah, the first obvious consequence is chronic stress. And all the stuff that comes with it. The constant fatigue, that feeling of mental fog or memory clouding, being easily distracted all the time.
Right.
Your body's just perpetually mobilized, burning energy reserves for threats that are mostly perceived, not real. And this chronic stress directly fuels generalized anxiety.
How does FOMO specifically fuel anxiety?
Well, it creates anticipatory anxiety. It does this by constantly painting these worst-case social scenarios in your head. What if they're all bonding without me right now? What if missing this one event means I get left out of the next big project? This kind of thinking makes genuine mental relaxation almost impossible.
I'm thinking about that example you gave, Sam, the college student debating ditching, studying for some random party.
Exactly. For Sam, the anxiety of potentially missing out on some hypothetical bonding moment felt more immediate, more urgent, than the very real, long-term need to study and get a good grade. The perceived social threat overrode his logical planning.
And the really cool twist in all this digital chasing is the loneliness paradox.
Oh, it's brutal. You spend hours scrolling through other people's highlight reels, ostensibly seeking connection, right? But that time directly displaces opportunities for actual face-to-face intimacy, real connection. So you end up chasing this digital ghost of connection, but feeling this haunting sense of emptiness. You can feel incredibly lonely even when you're physically sitting right next to someone you love because your attention is elsewhere. The more you look outward for digital validation, often the deeper the real-world isolation gets.
And eventually, that constant pressure, the social vigilance, trying to be everywhere, it just leads to burnout.
It's inevitable. Burnout is basically the system breaking down under perpetual overload. It often shows up as the cynical detachment, maybe emotional numbness or color blindness towards things you used to enjoy.
Right.
You try desperately to be everywhere, the office drinks, the networking thing, the friend's cousin's wedding, driven by that fear of missing the critical connection or opportunity, until your resources are just completely gone.
Like Rachel, the engineer you mentioned.
Yeah, Rachel's a perfect example. She attended every tech meetup, volunteered for every social committee, terrified she'd miss out on networking. Eventually, she just felt numb toward the next event. No excitement, just crushing fatigue and a desperate urge to hide. Chronic FOMO isn't a personal failing. It's often a system breakdown caused by this relentless pressure to be constantly visible and available.
And this exhaustion, this pressure, it directly impacts our judgment too. It makes us say yes when every fiber of our being is screaming no. How does FOMO actually hijack our decision-making?
It's a combination, really. It's that urgency trap we talked about, fueled by cortisol. The emotional brain screams, do something, don't miss out. And it basically bypasses the more rational planning part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex.
Okay.
But a huge driver here is a fundamental cognitive bias called loss aversion.
Loss aversion. Okay, what's that?
Basically, psychological studies show that the pain of losing something feels about twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something equivalent.
Wow, twice as powerful.
Yeah. So in the context of FOMO, the potential pain of missing out on an experience, even a potentially mediocre one, feels psychologically much worse, much riskier than the potential pleasure of gaining a quiet, restful evening at home.
So we prioritize avoiding the imagined pain of missing a party over the guaranteed pleasure or necessity of rest.
Precisely. That potential loss just looms larger in our minds.
Yeah.
And because of this bias, we end up treating our calendars like these frantic Tetris boards, right? Constantly overbooking ourselves, overextending our future self.
Borrowing time and energy from tomorrow.
Exactly. And then we pay these emotional overdraft fees later, usually in the form of resentment, exhaustion, and maybe even getting sick.
And you mentioned this overcommitment drains 3 specific currencies: time, energy, and even identity.
Yeah, time and energy are obvious, but identity is crucial too. When you're constantly saying yes based on external pressures, attending every event because others are, jumping on every trend because it seems popular, your sense of self can start to erode.
How so?
You risk becoming just this collage of external expectations and roles. It leads to what psychologists call identity diffusion. You might struggle to know who you are or what you genuinely want when you're not performing for an audience, real or digital.
Okay, let's talk about the literal cost too, the money. Because keeping up, being included, it gets incredibly expensive. What's the mechanism behind financial FOMO?
Financial FOMO is basically the social price tag of staying visible and feeling included. It's all those spontaneous happy hours you feel obliged to join, the last-minute concert tickets because everyone's going, the constant pressure to upgrade your phone, your clothes, your car to keep up appearances.
Little things that add up, like Nathan and his happy hour debt.
Exactly. Individually, each decision seems small. It's just one round. But Nathan's credit card debt, it was almost entirely built from those small, frequent, FOMO-driven social spending moments with colleagues. They stack up into really heavy financial consequences over time.
And the digital world is practically built to exploit this for impulsive buying too, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Think about all those scarcity queues online. Countdown timers, limited stock available, notices only 3 seats left at this price. They directly target that FOMO anxiety and exploit the dopamine system. Hitting buy provides this little micro rush, often completely separate from whether you actually need or will value the item. And then there's what you could call experience inflation. The whole experiential economy puts pressure on us to constantly upgrade. Last year's camping trip needs to become this year's glamping trip, which needs to become next year's eco-lodge retreat in Costa Rica, just to keep pace with the social signaling treadmill.
And this can spiral into really dangerous territory with market FOMO, right? Investing.
Yes, and this is potentially the most financially catastrophic consequence. We see herding behavior in investing people chasing meme stocks, crypto coins, the hot tech IPO driven almost purely by the fear of missing the rocket.
They see others bragging online.
Exactly. They see friends or influencers bragging about huge gains on social media, and the anxiety kicks in hard. It completely distorts rational risk assessment. Like the example of Daniel, who poured a huge chunk of his savings into super volatile assets based only on hearing colleagues boast. Analysis went out the window.
And the inevitable happened.
The inevitable market correction happened, and he suffered disastrous losses. It's a brutal lesson that making financial decisions driven by FOMO, by emotion rather than logic, can be incredibly destructive. Recognizing that emotional engine is so vital.
Okay. We have thoroughly mapped the disease, detailed the often devastating costs. Now, finally, let's make the critical shift. How do we move from this chronic fear towards intentional joy? Towards JOMO, right? The journey towards JOMO, the joy of missing out. It starts not with brute willpower, you're saying, but with radical self-awareness. Catching that first domino before it topples the whole chain. Right. Recognizing our specific triggers.
Yes, and that awareness often needs to start somatically. Tuning into your body's early warning signs, you have to learn to notice the physical tells of FOMO kicking in. Maybe it's tension in your shoulders, maybe your breath gets shallow, maybe that little fluttery feeling in your chest.
Your body knows before your brain formulates the thought.
Often, yes. Your body registers that subtle thread of exclusion or comparison before your mind consciously labels it as FOMO or forms the sentence, maybe I should just quickly check my phone.
And then we need to get specific, right? Identify the granular triggers.
Yeah.
Not just, oh, social media makes me feel bad, but what exactly on social media?
Exactly. This takes a bit of detective work, maybe some journaling or just focused reflection after you feel that pang. For instance, your client, Nora, she realized it wasn't all office party photos. It was specifically the crowded group shots in the lobby that triggered her inadequacy feelings. Solo pictures. Fine. Or maybe you realize that specific phrase, thrilled to announce, on LinkedIn, that's your personal kryptonite. Identifying these micro-triggers lets you be more strategic. Maybe you curate your feed differently, or you can anticipate the feeling and prepare for it.
And acknowledging that basic self-care, sleep, stress management is essentially FOMO prevention.
It's fundamental. Think of it as FOMO prophylaxis. When you're sleep-deprived, stressed, hungry, your system is chemically vulnerable. Your amygdala, the brain's threat detector, it gets hyper-reactive. It starts perceiving minor social slights or comparisons as major existential dangers.
So prioritizing sleep literally makes you less susceptible to FOMO triggers.
It lowers your baseline cortisol levels, making your whole system less jumpy, less reactive to those external pings. It gives you more bandwidth to respond thoughtfully instead of reactively.
Okay, so once we have that awareness, knowing our body signs, our specific triggers, prioritizing self-care, how do we translate that into concrete action? Boundaries, digital detox.
Right. The goal of something like a digital detox, even a short one, isn't usually about permanent sacrifice. It's about recalibration.
Recalibrating the brain's reward system.
Exactly. Letting it reset so that real-world experiences start to feel rich and rewarding again on their own terms. And the strategies that work best often involve physical anchors, physical boundaries, like charging stations outside the bedroom, using an old-school analog alarm clock instead of your phone, establishing clear phone-free zones, or times maybe the dinner table, maybe the first hour of the day, maybe the bathroom.
The bathroom is a good one.
It is. Create physical distance, and transparency around these boundaries can be really powerful too.
How does transparency help against the anxiety of disconnecting?
Well, clearly communicating your boundaries reduces that internal nagging anxiety that you're ignoring people or letting them down. Like Leah, the developer you mentioned, setting up that email auto reply saying she only checks messages twice a day.
Right.
That does two things. It reduces her stress because she's given herself permission to focus, but it also models intentionality for others. It reassures people, hey, my slower response is purposeful, it's not neglect, it manages expectations.
Okay, now for the big reframe. Cultivating JOMO, the joy of missing out. It sounds almost paradoxical, right?
Oh,
Celebrating absence.
it does sound counterintuitive at first. But JOMO isn't passive resignation. It's an active, intentional choice. It's choosing to deeply value your present experience above all those infinite hypothetical alternatives swirling out there.
So it's a positive reframe.
It's a powerful, positive reframe. It's the conscious realization like your client Priya had in her quiet cabin. Wow, missing out on that noisy, expensive networking event is exactly what's allowing me to be fully present right here, right now, enjoying this piece, and this is what I actually value more. The fulfillment she felt was directly tied to the things she chose to exclude.
Which means saying no shifts. It's not primarily an act of rejecting others.
It becomes an act of affirming your own priorities, your own values. When you say no thoughtfully, grounded in what matters to you, the sky rarely falls. In fact, paradoxically, that authenticity often deepens relationships over time because people tend to respect clarity and genuine presence.
And you mentioned JOMO can even be a competitive advantage, like those startup teams.
Yeah, that was a fascinating little case study. Team A chased every conference, every after-hours social, terrified of missing out. Team B deliberately enforced blocks of quiet, focused work time, protected their energy. Guess who consistently outpaced Team A on key project metrics?
Team B, the JOMO team.
Team B, because JOMO sharpens focus. It protects your most valuable resources, your time, your energy, your attention for deep work.
And JOMO relies heavily on mindfulness, doesn't it? Being anchored in the present.
Absolutely. Mindfulness is the anchor. It trains your attention on the micro details of your current reality, things no digital feed can ever replicate. The actual taste of your coffee, the specific words someone is saying to you, the feeling of sun on your skin. These become sufficient, valuable experiences in themselves, available anytime, requiring zero external validation.
But this whole framework, this JOMO idea, it kind of falls apart if you don't have that inner compass, right? If you don't know what you're saying yes to, how do we build those authentic values and priorities?
That's the foundation. Values things like creativity, connection, contribution, health, learning. They provide the ultimate destination boards for your life. Without that clarity, FOMO will always try to steer you towards the path of maximum visibility, which is usually just the most crowded path.
So we need to do an authenticity check.
The serious authenticity check. Ask yourself, does this value I claim to hold, say, prestige or wealth or even adventure, does it feel genuinely alive and resonant in my body? Or is it more like a costume I've been told I should wear by society, by my peers, by advertising?
Like Maria realizing she craved contribution, not just corporate prestige.
Exactly. She was chasing prestige because her peer group valued it. But her deep, authentic longing was for making a tangible contribution. Once she redefined her goals around that value, the fancy titles of her colleagues suddenly lost their power to make her feel inadequate. The comparison dissolved.
So when our choices truly align with those core, authentic values, they stop feeling like fear-based gambles.
And they become acts of genuine self-expression. You're not choosing X to avoid missing Y. You're choosing X because X is you.
And the result of that alignment is profound. The collapse of external comparison.
It really is. When you forge your own internal yardstick metrics that matter to you, like hours spent in deep creative flow this week, or number of meaningful conversations I had, or progress made on my personal passion project, then the external metrics just lose their grip.
Someone else's marathon medal or new car just doesn't register on your scoreboard.
Exactly, because your score isn't dependent on their performance anymore. You've defined your own game.
Okay, so bringing it all together, we integrate this into a resilient mindset for life, recognizing that this isn't about perfection. Resilience is the final piece.
Absolutely. Resilience is key. It's the capacity to rebound after the inevitable slip-ups. Because let's be real, you will have moments where you fall back into scrolling, where you feel that pang of inadequacy. That's not failure.
It's feedback.
It's just feedback. It's data signaling. Maybe you need to tweak a boundary, maybe reconnect with a core value. Maybe you're just tired and need more rest. So we integrate everything using this final filter. Audit every new opportunity, every request, every shiny new technology against your defined values and boundaries. Ask, does this align with my purpose? Will it enhance my life according to my definition? Will it respect my boundaries? If the answer is no, you let it pass without guilt, knowing that missing that is actually your greatest gain. Hashtag outro.
Wow. What a journey. We've really decoded this ancient evolutionary fear of being left out. We've exposed how modern tech, the dopamine loops, the infinite scroll, deliberately exploits that fear.
Yeah.
And we've built this practical framework for fighting back
Yeah.
based on awareness, presence, and knowing what truly matters to you.
Yeah, and the core takeaway, I think, is this. The goal isn't to completely eliminate curiosity or the desire for connection. That's hardwired in us, and it's good. The goal is to stop that ancient reactionary instinct from constantly driving the bus. That tiny pause, that little gap, maybe just a heartbeat between the trigger and your response. That's where your freedom lives. That's where JOMO starts to bloom.
It's that powerful shift, isn't it? Recognizing that the real reward isn't the hypothetical experience you could be having or the one everyone else seems to be advertising online.
Right.
But the unique, unrepeatable one you are actively choosing to be present for, right here, right now.
Exactly. And remember that community, real connection, strengthens our resolve against this. The true antidote to missing out isn't frantically trying to be everywhere. It's simply learning to fully be here.
So we'll leave you with maybe one final thought to chew on today. Consider this. What specific, unrepeatable, maybe quiet, maybe simple, unique memory are you actively creating right now? In this moment, maybe in your next conversation, in a choice you make today. Something no algorithm could ever predict or replicate. That is the authentic texture of the life you are actually living.
To get more details about fear of missing out, understanding the psychology behind FOMO, click the below link to get the book. Subscribe us to get more content like this.